Hey guys, I thought I would come back and film the second part of my birth story that I uploaded. Hold on. 3 months ago. It was 3 months ago. I just like to leave things in such a cliffhanger state that you stop caring altogether. I can't remember where I left off. Hold on.
Good crunchy hospital ice. What a woman, truly. Like
she was. I might repeat myself. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I just watched the tail end of the video to see like what details I left off on, which I think is just that I lost blood. I lost like 1.5 liters of blood. Okay, I have my skincare on, my sunscreen and everything. I'm gonna put on a little bit of recovery. I don't know if I've actually, did I talk about it in that video or did I already have makeup on? God, it's all a blur. I can't take a 3-month break. I don't think I have. So really quickly, we launched Plush Ritual in a tube, which is like our best-selling lip balm. And it originally came in a jar and it still comes in a jar, though it's been out of stock for months and I don't even want to talk about it. You know, it's just like one thing leads to another when it comes to manufacturing. Like one small thing happens and that like pushes the timeline out by like 2 weeks, and then another small thing happens and that pushes it out by a month. And then like, anyways, we launched a lip balm. It's great. Basically, we had to reformulate it to be able to allow it to flow through a tube. We had a ton of requests for this formula in a tube. So the actives are the same, the thing that makes the lip balm, in my opinion, the best lip balm in the world. If I had to compare the textures, I would say that this one has like a little bit more of a slip to it, so to speak, where the original feels more kind of like buttery, like thicker, I guess I would describe it as. Also, nobody look at my mess in the background, okay? I don't want to talk about it. I didn't have time to freaking clean, and I wouldn't have done it even if I did have time. It's a metal tip, which is so nice. It's like so soothing and pleasant to apply with, and the hole for the product to dispense is on the back. So you dispense it from the back and then smooth it on with a metal tip, which when I first looked at this component, I was like, is this insane? But over time I came to really like it because I reapply my lip balm throughout the day and I'll apply it over top of lipsticks and like lip liners and stuff like that if I'm wearing it. And I never liked how the components that had the hole in the center of the applicator itself got this like juicy, gritty debris in it from whatever gross shit was on your lip. I'm so sorry to describe it that way. So I've come to really love that the hole is on the back because it makes exponentially more sense. And I'm gonna zoom you into my lips here. Whoop. I know that my skin is still red, but like my texture is so much better. It's kind of freaking wild. There's one side, is it this side? Yeah, I think it's on this side. I have like kind of, I don't know where it is, like one really deep scar. I kind of want to get laser for it. I'm gonna go in at some point. It's just like I have to take a whole fucking ferry. It's like a whole, anyways. This is what I like. My lips used to be perpetually chapped. And now they get dry, of course. Like if I'm not putting anything on them, they get dry, but they never get chapped to the point where I can like pick at them and peel them because I'm a picker and a peeler. Hence the scar that I just anyways. So I just love that this makes it so my lips never chap. But also it's like, they just instantly look so much better. And I was laughing because kind of recently someone DM'd me and they were like, oh, I had posted a photo of like my skin transformation, which was pretty fucking wild. And I think I posted it in one of my last videos or something. I can't remember. It's all a blur. Again, I'm so like frantic because I feel like we have so much to discuss. So every time I've been filming lately, I'm just like, oh yeah. So I posted this like before and after of my skin. And when my skin was at its worst, someone commented being like, this is the photo that pushed me to pull the trigger on Plush because even when your skin was so bad, your lips look like super plump and hydrated. What can I say? So anyways, that's my little plug for the best lip balm that's ever existed on this planet. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. I keep saying that I wish I had my own promo code for my brand because I'm curious. I want to know how many sales I personally drive. This has been a long-standing argument within our little team. I don't think I drive as many sales as other people think I do. like other people on our team. But I am curious to know, and we don't have like a way currently to track outside of promo codes. Maybe I'll set one up I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll set one up. I don't know. If I do, I'll put it in the freaking description box. If I don't, then fucking I don't. Whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna do my base makeup. And that's pretty much it. That's all I really, and my brows, and maybe a little bit, I don't know, might put a little mascara on, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna use the Salt concealers and skin tint. I talked about this recently on Instagram. So great. I'm gonna show you why I feel that way in just a moment. I tried the skin tint when it first came out some time ago, and I honestly can't remember what my thoughts were at the time, but right now, like especially over the past 2 years, I would say, my skin has changed so much in the way of like just like how my makeup sits on my skin. It like really settles into like pores and fine lines in a way that it hadn't previously. I don't know, it's like I'm 31 now. Does it have something to do with it? I couldn't tell you, okay? But because of that, I haven't been enjoying a lot of the foundations that I typically would use and love, to the extent where I'm like, I almost prefer the look of I usually prefer the look of my skin without foundation on it, because I'm like, I would rather have like some redness and stuff like that going on, or like a spot here and there, than have it look like this like dry, cakey, creasing mess. You know? But I recently retried this because she launched her concealers. It's wild. They're so well done. It's kind of insane, actually. So I'm gonna be using the color corrector in Peach Light, the Best Case concealer in N12. I'm rusty, you guys. Did I used to be good at being an influencer? Probably at some point. And then I'm gonna be using the Sneaky Bomb tint in N12 as well. We'll get into it. So I'm just taking a little bit of that peach on my brush, and I'm gonna like pat it onto the back of my hand just to get off some of that excess, because this goes a long way, and I just want to apply a little bit. It's like the formula's quite emollient, and it looks like, you can see, like it looks like almost glossy in the pan. And so I had a couple people asking me whether or not it's like sticky, and it's not. It has like the slightest bit of tack to it, which for me makes it more long wearing, and it makes it look exponentially better on my skin. Because once something goes too far in a territory of being like more matte when it's applied as a cream or as a liquid, there's something in there making it matte. You know what I mean? And that thing that's making it matte looks shitty on your skin. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. But anyways, so it has like a little bit of a tack to it, but I don't find it like even moderately uncomfortable to wear. And I mean, you can always set your concealer if you're insane. No, I've been setting my concealer more and more recently, though I haven't set this one because I don't feel like I've needed to. But anyways, I'm just applying that, and I'm kind of starting to blend it over the areas where I have a little bit more redness. It's so good. I just love, in the shades. Anyways, okay, what else happened? So I went to the hospital because I had my baby. I lost 1.5 liters of blood. The lady helped me put my frickin' postpartum diaper on. It's a pad, it's a big pad. What else happened? Oh, I had to get a blood transfusion. That's what ended up happening. So they took my blood, which seems like counterintuitive now that we're thinking about it, because I lost 1.5 liters. So like, how much more do I have to lose, for God's sake? Can you get the needle out of my arm? Thanks. But anyways, they continually were like checking my blood while I was there. This is the foundation that I'm putting on. To be honest, I like dabble a little bit back and forth between the concealer and the balm, because the foundation, the balm, is like less, it's like slightly less emollient than the concealer, and I kind of like it to be even more emollient because that's just the type of person that I am. And then I just like really push it into my brush. And if you find that you get like, I don't know, that you like maybe over apply creams or something like that, do the thing again where like you press it onto the back of your hand and like really work that product into the brush, and then just use like the gentlest, like most like feather light touch. And that's like the best way, in my opinion, to apply creams, especially if you're somebody that has texture. because that way you're not going to disturb the texture. And I think a lot of the times, like, we feel, I mentioned this, I can't stop repeating myself, but I mentioned this exactly in the YouTube or the Instagram video that I talked about this product in, because I think sometimes we feel like if we apply more pressure, it's going to blend better. And that's usually not the case. There's instances where that is the case, I'm sure, but like oftentimes not. Like oftentimes you can use a really light hand and it's going to give you a better application. It's going to blend better a lot of the times, and it's not going to upset any like texture that you have residing on your skin. So anyways, they kept testing my blood to check my iron levels. And they had checked it the night that I got there, and they were like, okay, if it's not, you know, at whatever level by the morning, then like we're gonna have to do a blood transfusion, okay? So just prepare yourself. Suffice to say, my iron levels did not skyrocket overnight. So yeah, I ended up having to do a blood transfusion. Thank you to whoever donated their blood. Appreciate it. They said in the hospital, they were like, you'll feel better instantly. Like as soon as you get it, within like 20 minutes, you're gonna feel like a different woman. That's not accurate. That wasn't accurate for me, at least. I'm sure there are people where like that's the case. But I did not feel good. I just was like super lightheaded from doing absolutely nothing. I was really shaky. I would be like so cold. And so that day, they wanted me to stay a second night. But honestly, when you're in the hospital, at least for me, you're just sleeping so poorly. It gets to a point where for me, I was like, I would rather be at home so that I can actually just sleep and hopefully start to like recover and feel better that way, rather than being in a hospital where like, yes, they can monitor me. I know this sounds insane, but it's just like, sometimes you just friggin' need to be at home. And ultimately, we've already established that if something happened, someone's gonna pick me up on a boat and take me to the frickin' mainland. And also, not to mention, there's something about breastfeeding in a hospital. It's not that I have like any issue breastfeeding in public. It's just like the pressure is too much for me. It's too much. I can't take it. Like with my first and my second, I just could not get them to latch in the hospital. And it's so stressful because like people are continually coming in to like check in on the baby, really, but you, and see how you're doing with nursing and stuff like that. And it's like, not well. I'm not doing well, Leanne. But once we got home, we were able to get into like a rhythm for breastfeeding so quickly that I just feel like, I don't know what it is. So we went home at like 11 at night that second. It wasn't 11 at night, it was probably 10 because we caught the last ferry. And honestly, it was so wild because like my recovery this time, completely different. Like the labor and delivery was crazy. I can't believe people do that willingly. That was very much against my consent, doing that without an epidural. But my recovery from my first, and I'm not sure, I've heard that like epidurals make the recovery worse sometimes, and that was definitely true for me. Like I'm not sure if it just was a worse recovery because of just like how things went down, but honestly, like I had tearing and stitches and stuff like that with my first, and with my second, I think I got a little bit of, wow, I just can't recall a damn thing. I think I got some small stitching done because I tore a little bit. Regardless, the recovery was completely different. Like I didn't wear jeans until probably like 10 weeks postpartum with my first because it was so outrageously uncomfortable. Like I lived in disposable like postpartum underwear and a pad. Like I literally didn't put on clothing because it was so uncomfortable and painful and just like the worst. And I bled for like 10 weeks. I was so swollen. It was just wild. Like it was so much worse. Like walking up and down the stairs, sitting, fucking forget it. It was, oh my God. But this time physically, it was so much better. Like I recovered so much quicker. I bled for like a normal amount of time, in my opinion. But I wasn't in like constant pain. Like my second was, I don't know, like 10 days old, and we were going on walks and stuff like that. And I was like, which is not advised, but like I was just totally fine. Like I was not It didn't bother me basically at all. Mentally, whew, Nelly. With my first, I think I was like over preparing myself for the possibility of postpartum depression. And I stayed on my medication. I like kept up with my weekly counseling sessions and stuff like that. I think I took like maybe 2 weeks off or something, but then like I went back pretty quickly. And I did the same thing with my second, but I think that I look at anybody else, and when they talk about their life, I can so clearly be like, yeah, obviously this was a traumatic experience for you. Makes sense that you're like reeling a bit from it, you know? And I look at myself and I'm like, it wasn't that bad, was it? But turns out, I think it was that bad. I think I know I had a really hard time mentally postpartum. And I was just like reacting to things in a way that I really didn't with my first. And also, I will say this could just be, you know, at least partially because like I have 2 babies now. We're sleeping even less. We have even less free time, you know, and we both still work and whatever. So it's kind of like there's like a lot going on, you know what I mean? But like I had a really hard time. Like my baby's crying just like sent me to a different planet. Like it was so bizarre. I couldn't handle it. Like I literally couldn't handle it. Like they would cry and God, I cannot remember if I've talked about all this already. So if I have, I'm really sorry if you're having to listen to it. Well, you don't have to, like you can turn it off, you know, if you want to. But the best way I can describe it is that when they would cry, it was like I felt it in literally every cell of my being. Like my whole body would like tingle. I would have to like step away, which I don't know. I think I had to do that once with my first when they were like 10 months old or something because they just wouldn't go to sleep. But never when they were a newborn. Like they're crying. They didn't cry much, first of all. But secondly, their crying never bothered me in a way where I would like basically get like triggered. And that's the best word that I can describe it for. I know that a lot of people like throw that word around, but I'm using that word very sincerely right now. It made me feel like I was going crazy. And it just, for the first few weeks, possibly months, I can't recall, they would cry and it was like I was like instantly back in the ambulance. It was so bizarre. Here's the thing. I feel like a lot of the times I talk about stuff in like motherhood and pregnancy and people get honestly like quite upset with me because they're like, you're scaring people off of this or whatever. But it's like, I'm not. I'm just trying to be forthcoming about stuff because like, I think it's like we all can reasonably understand that like life and humans and the way we react to things is messy and we can understand it in other people so readily, but we can't understand it in ourselves. Like we're like, why am I having such a hard time with this? Why am I reacting this way? What's wrong with me? Why am I like whatever? And a lot of the times, especially in motherhood or parenthood, it's things that like make you feel really ashamed. And for me, the thing that I struggled with so much is that during my first pregnancy, I didn't feel like super connected when I was pregnant and stuff like that. But after they were born, I felt connected like fairly quickly. And I really enjoyed that whole postpartum experience aside from the physical side. Like I enjoyed the newborn phase, honestly. Like I really liked it and I felt really connected to my baby and stuff like that. And with my second, it was such a different experience and I felt really guilty about it and really ashamed because like oh my God, it's so hard to explain. It's like my pregnancy was so difficult and I had so many complications that I constantly thought I was gonna lose my baby. And so like I had a baby name picked out for years that I was like, I knew I was going to use that name kind of thing. I just like couldn't bring myself to use that name because I was like, what if I've been like building up this baby in my mind and then I'm going to use that name and I'm going to lose them. And then at some point it was like, now I'm just like making this baby something that never really was. And so it just felt so weird using that name. So I didn't end up using this name that I had like chosen and had forever. And everyone that knew me knew that like I had that name picked out. So they were like, what? Like, you're not going to call them this? The name was Atlas. I was going to call them Atlas, but I just like couldn't bring myself to do it. It was so weird. It was like I was like naming a baby that wasn't real or something. And then it just felt like, I don't know, it's so hard to explain. I went through my whole pregnancy being so scared that I was gonna lose this baby that I almost like didn't want to get too attached. And I was so sick so like violently ill through my whole pregnancy. Like I was taking nausea pills, anti-nausea pills into my third trimester, well into my third trimester. It was so insane. And so, and then this labor and delivery happened the way that it did. To be honest, I just can't with the people that are like, you had all these professionals telling you. I know that some of you were joking when you were saying this, but there was like people that were genuinely like, you had all these people telling you to like stay on the mainland. So why didn't you just do that? But we had made plans. And it's like when you're in that moment, you're assessing the risk constantly. Like you're constantly like, okay, well now this is what this person's telling me. So you're trying to be realistic with yourself. Like, are we going to spend thousands of dollars to go stay on the mainland and just be miserable out there with a toddler in a place that isn't baby proof for extra weeks when we don't have to, because like this person's telling me the likelihood of my baby coming that early is like very slim. So why would we, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you're doing the best you can with the knowledge that you have. What was I saying before I went down that like rabbit hole of complaining? Oh yeah, so I was feeling kind of like I didn't want to get too attached in pregnancy. And then I was also feeling like, honestly, it was like this weird feeling of like bitterness towards my literal unborn child, because I was so sick and like it was such a stressful pregnancy. Obviously it's not their fault, but it's just like you're in such a different headspace mentally that you can't like make sense of things. And it's just like, this is like the feeling that just literally came into my body. And as much as I could rationalize with myself, like obviously this is insane, it's just like that was the feeling that kept creeping in. Like I had this weird kind of like bitterness towards this child that I was like not even moderately at fault. And then when the birth happened the way that it did, I don't know, it was just such an overwhelming experience. I just like, I had so many mixed emotions around it. And then like as my baby was growing and stuff like that, where with my firstborn, I started to feel like more and more connected over time as like you're getting to know this little human, and like obviously you're spending time together and they're like physical and real now and you can like see them and touch them and whatever. And with my second, it was almost like I was struggling to connect these two beings. Like this was the baby that was in my body and now they're here. It's like I just couldn't put the two together. Like they were like two different people and two different parts of my life kind of thing. But like to summarize, so I don't keep you here all day, having the second baby really like turned my perception of myself as a mother on its head, because I felt quite proud actually with my first of like how well I was able to handle just like everything that was coming at me. Because like as much as, you know, like the postpartum period was still like difficult and the newborn period was difficult, I felt like I was handling it really well. I felt like I was really patient and really like having compassion for myself, having compassion for my child, even in moments where I felt like, you know, frustrated that like breastfeeding wasn't going well, or I didn't know why they were crying, or like what was wrong, or you know what I mean? Like those like moments that can be kind of like frustrating for both you and the child. I felt like I was navigating them really well. And then, and it's like, I kind of like had this perception of myself, like that's who I am as a mom. And then when I had my second, it was like, where did that go? And like, why is this child not being afforded that mom? You know what wow, like I literally cannot upload a video without crying. It's so wild, but it's just, it feels like almost like my second got cheated in a way, because they didn't get the same patience and connection and whatever, which like so many of these things were internal. Like I wasn't to the best of my ability, you know, externally like putting out this frustration and bitterness and lack of patience and whatever. Like I was trying my best to not do that. It's just like I had so many things going on internally that I felt like I couldn't show up in the way that I was able to show up for my first, and the way that I wanted so badly to show up for my second. And so it just took a while. Like it took a while before I felt mentally there. So it was so interesting, because like my first was like physically so bad, mentally pretty okay. And my second was like physically pretty okay and mentally so bad. I'm just gonna put a little bit of mascara on, to be honest. I got sent, I posted about like not having found like a new favorite mascara since Bite was discontinued. I used to love their Upswing mascara so much. And I posted about like how I haven't really found like a true replacement that I love so much since then. And a couple people sent me mascara, but one of those people was Lauren Curtis, OG beauty YouTuber. So great. She has a brand called Lounge Face, and Her mascara is called Lounge Face Lash, and I've actually been quite liking it. And I will say, I am not a molded brush type of bitch. I like a fiber brush. I do not like silicone brushes normally, and this is a silicone brush, and I quite like it. But just to bore you a little bit further about motherhood, I'm gonna say something that may shock you. And I don't know if anyone's ever shared this sentiment before. Hang on to your hats for this piping hot take. Motherhood is hard. I find it particularly difficult with work stuff because it's like, I don't think I realized how much self-worth I put into my work and like my ability to make an income for myself and all of that. Like I knew that I valued that, but I didn't think that I valued it quite as much as I have recently realized. Like probably closer to a year now. Like while I was kind of postpartum with my first, I was like, oh wow, I derived a lot of confidence from the ability to be able to provide for myself. If I'm working, this isn't accurate, but it's like if I'm working, I feel like I'm not being a mom. And if I'm being a mom, I feel like I'm not working. Like I don't feel like I'm able to do the two simultaneously. Another piping hot take, which like you are, like you're able to do that, but it's just like this idea that if you're not like 100% present, then you're no longer doing your job as a mom. And it's so hard to get out of a headspace. Like when I get into a workflow, it's like having to step away every like 20 minutes is just so brutal. Like it's so brutal. And like we have one day a week. My mom watches the kid, our toddler, once a week. And so it's like I'm trying to cram all this stuff into, Tuesdays because that's our day. I'm struggling with it right now because I'd like to be able to do more. Like I'd like to be able to post more and work more and get stuff done for, Auric and stuff like that. But I feel really constrained basically because I have this like excitement around the idea of being able to kind of like get back to work and get feeling like kind of more, myself, like this other version of myself basically. But I can't just drop everything whenever I want to sit down and film a video. And it's really difficult. I don't know. I think the truth of the matter is like I have bad boundaries with myself. I have bad boundaries with being able to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing from this time to this time and then I'm gonna stop. So I'm just like fully invested with like, family time or cooking or, painting or whatever it is that I'm like trying to like turn my mind off from. It's like I want my work day to be like 24 hours of work day and my off days to be like 24 hours of off day, you know what I mean? So like having to like intermix, I'm just like struggling to find that balance right now. But anyways, those are my complaints for the day. Thanks so much for hanging out and chatting. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out.